before, I wanted to do some more cooking videos, and I had done one other one. I think it was like peach cobbler, something like that. So this is Heavy Metal Cooking episode 2, and today I wanted to make some biscottis. These are like the best biscottis that I've ever had. They are a recipe my mother got. I'm not sure where she got it from, but I've been making them for years, and like I said, they're like my favorite. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'll try to like position the camera so you can see what's going on. So let's go. And going along with Heavy Metal Cooking, I have an Iron Maiden shirt on. So I preheated the oven to 375 degrees, and now we're gonna start mixing the ingredients together. So I just have like a large metal bowl, and first you're gonna add 2 eggs. I usually just use large eggs. So 2 eggs, and then 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. And then you want a 1/4 cup of orange juice without pulp in it. Next is 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, and 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Next, you're going to put 2 cups of sugar, so granulated sugar. And then I just take a wooden spoon and mix those ingredients together that we have so far. And at this point, this is when you can like start headbanging while you're mixing your ingredients. I'm not gonna headbang too much because I don't wanna make the baby sick, because then that'll make me sick. So at this point the mixture looks pretty nasty. It looks something like, you can see that, like brownish, kind of looks like diarrhea. Not too appetizing, but trust me, these cookies are good. So next we're gonna add in 2 3/4 cup flour. I just use King Arthur unbleached all-purpose flour. I'm gonna just sort of mix 1 cup at a time, just because it's a little bit easier. Next cup. Oh my god, you see that? I make a mess when I cook, like really bad. Like I get it all over me, all over the floor, all over the counters. And the next thing is 3 teaspoons of baking powder. At this point, with all the flour in there, the dough is getting like pretty tough to stir. But I just keep doing it until there's no more white left. So it should look something like that, and it's like pretty thick, and it's like, you know, more dense than it was before because of all the flour. And at this point you can add nuts to them. I usually use pecans, but today I decided to use walnuts, so you can use walnuts, pecans, almonds, really anything that you like as far as the nut category goes. So you want 1 cup of crushed nuts. I bought, it says crushed, but I use chopped nuts. I don't know, I kind of just like bigger chunks in there. And that sounds pretty bad, crushed nuts for a guy. Then just mix it in until it's incorporated into the dough and like kind of sticks to it. I hate like working over a counter because for me, because I'm so tall, that I'm like always hunched over and then my back starts hurting. It's really uncomfortable. I feel like I need the countertops higher for myself. Okay, that's about good. Now this part is the sort of difficult part where you have to like mold the lumps of dough into like long bars for when you cut the biscotti up. So you can use a regular metal cookie sheet, but I use stoneware because I find that doesn't darken the bottom of the cookie as much, like it won't burn it. It's like really good for even cooking. But if you don't have stoneware, then you can just, like I said, use like a regular metal sheet if you want to. I think some people put parchment paper down if it's easier for you. But this is what my sheet looks like. So I sort of just scoop some of it out and kind of like shape it like a little bit and start placing it on the sheet. I don't know if you guys can see that. Almost like long kind of logs. So you want them to be about 2 inches wide, 1 inch high, and then it says 12 inches long. If you're using, it says form into 4 bars. I never end up doing that. I think I end up just doing 2, like as long as I can go. 2 inches wide and 1 inch tall. It doesn't have to be perfect. They end up like really like puffing up and like extending. So a lot of times for me, they end up like touching one another. Once they're done cooking, and I don't know, it doesn't really matter to me because you know, you just cut them and they're fine. And it ends up like sticking to your hands really bad. You can flour your fingers if you want. I don't. It says bake for 20 minutes. Now with stoneware takes longer to heat up and then, you know, to cook the biscotti. So I think I end up leaving these in longer. With a metal sheet pan, it might be the 20 minutes. So I just keep checking on it to see, you know, like maybe like poking on it to see if it's like, you know, really squishy and not becoming, you know, too dark, because you want it to be like you know, golden brown on top, or like, you know, to get dark on top so that you know that it's cooked. So I'm gonna put that in there now. Like I said, 375 degrees for 20 minutes just to start, and then you just check on it. So those are in there, and I think it probably makes a difference whether or not you have a gas stove or an electric stove. Now I just switched to an electric stove, so I haven't made these cookies in an electric oven before. I've always had gas, and like I said, I've had to cook them longer than 20 minutes. So that's just another thing to keep in mind, whether or not you have gas or an electric stove. So we're gonna let those cook, and then we'll be back. In the meantime, turn on some metal and get head banging. So I ended up leaving them in another 5 minutes, so 25 minutes total. And you can see how they're, you know, pretty golden on top, and there's some give, but that's gonna happen because we're gonna cut them after they cool and then put them back in the oven so they can dry out in the middle more. So for right now, we're just gonna let them cool down for a little bit and then come back. So they're kind of cooled down, but they're still a little hot. But I wanna see if I can cut them now. Usually biscotti are cut like on a diagonal. For some reason, like, I just can't do it. I always just cut them straight. I don't know why. They just don't, it just doesn't work for me. So whatever way you want. If you can do it on a diagonal, do it on a diagonal. If not, you can just cut them straight down. Now these are, cutting on the stoneware is pretty hard or difficult, and cutting through these is difficult. I try to use like a big knife like this. If this doesn't work, you know, I'll switch to try a different knife, but whatever works for you. And I use a spatula to kind of pick them up off of the stoneware. So I'm laying them out on their side on another cookie sheet because we're going to put them back in the oven. So you lower the temperature to 300 degrees and maybe let them brown up and get a little drier and harder in the middle for another 10-15 minutes. Because the word biscotti, Italian, it means twice cooked. So we cooked it once and now we got to put it back in and cook it again. So I'll finish cutting these up and then I'll be back. You don't need to see me cut through each one. It's a little bit time consuming. So I left them in there for about 15 minutes to get a little drier in the middle. You'll see how they're harder. So let them sit and completely cool before you take them off the cookie sheet. That way they don't break apart. And then you can just put them on a dish and there you go. Serve them to your friends or eat them all yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Heavy Metal Cooking. Let me know if you guys try this recipe for yourselves or if you have any questions about it. And until next time, stay dark, my friends, and I will talk to you guys later.